Hello and welcome to the 71st episode of the Accountant's Success Secrets podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mark Lee of Bookmark Lee. I'm a mentor, speaker and debunker.
And I'm Philippa Haynes of Insight 101, supporting you to stand out.
Each week on the podcast, we showcase another experienced accountant or bookkeeper who we think can inspire and encourage other accountants and bookkeepers in practice.
Yeah, we both recognise that every accountant and bookkeeper is unique and distinct. They have different backgrounds, experiences, and reasons for starting and building their practices.
So we asked them to share their stories, including the highs, the lows, and what they've learned along the way. We're looking to explore what makes them different in terms of their background, their successes, their failures, and their focus.
Yeah, and our aim is to provide some fundamental insights for others like you, our loyal listener.
And if you'd like to share your story in a similar way, do please get in touch with Philippa or me. We're now booking guests for November episodes. Man.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about November. Anyway, today in our 58th interview, we are delighted to introduce Sudipta, known as Sid, Moore. Sid originally qualified as a chartered accountant with a London firm before taking a range of in-house jobs and then starting Moore Accountancy in Manchester 15 years ago. Based in Altrincham, Cheshire, the practice now employs 8 professionals, or 9, hold that space, I'm not sure, who mostly work from the office at Sid's home, and we've got to find out more about this. The firm provides general accounting services to local individuals, startups and SMEs, mostly in South Manchester, but also across the Northwest and further afield too.
You're very welcome to be here, Sid. It's such a delight to have you. What would you like to add before we get into the interview?
No, I think Philippa's covered that all. Been going for 15 years and we're pretty much a general practice working with other small businesses. So that's spot on, Philippa. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, so let's just mention our sponsor before we start. Pinnacle Global Group, the trusted offshoring partner to over 150 accounting and bookkeeping firms across the UK and Ireland, led by London-based chartered accountant Mayank Pandya. With the offices in London and Mumbai and a team of over 300 professionals, Pinnacle provides both compliance resourcing from accountants, bookkeepers and payroll admins to tax and audit associates, and also value-added support, including management accountants, virtual finance controllers, financial analysts and more. They're GDPR compliant, ISO certified, covered by professional indemnity insurance, and offer flexible models, full-time, part-time, or pay as you go. You can even start with a trial period or join their sponsored trip to Mumbai to meet the team in person. To find out more, go to www.pinnacleoss.co.uk or click the link wherever you're listening to this podcast. And I do know that they will be at Accountex Manchester, so why don't you go and say hi to them.
Brilliant. Also supporting the podcast is the Tax Advice Network. Their website enables accountants to choose specific specialist tax advisors for general tax support or for help across any of over 100 areas of tax. It's free to use. You just pay the tax advisor you choose after agreeing terms with them, whether for ad hoc advice or a regular tax clinic type support service. Go take a look at their website, find a taxadvisor.online, where you can also register to get their weekly tax tips, which are written especially for general practitioner accountants.
Yeah. And finally, before we start, you can also now subscribe to our podcast on the Patreon platform. This is where you can show your love and support for Accountant Success Secrets and also subscribe for exclusive Patreon-only extras.
You'll need to download the Patreon app, but once you're subscribed, you'll get the extra episodes via your normal podcast platform. We'll include details of what to do in the normal podcast notes and on the Accountant Success Secrets pages on Facebook and on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Right, back to Sid. As you know, we aim to keep the podcast to around 30 minutes, and we do that by focusing the discussion around a few key questions. And I know Mark will kick off.
Yeah. So, Sid, if we just go back to the start, how did you come to start up your own practice in Manchester? And how did you get your first clients?
Okay. So I guess it's a situation that's popular or common with a lot of maybe working mothers. We moved up to Manchester when I was pregnant with my first child, and then I worked in industry while I was pregnant. I then had 2 more kids quite close in age. The childcare costs were going to be phenomenal when I was ready to go back to work, and I decided that I couldn't afford, net £2,500 a year. Sorry, £2,500 a month. So I thought, what else can I do? So I looked at starting in practice then. Historically, I obviously trained in practice in London, and then I'd gone into industry, I'd gone into banking. So it was almost like, oh, do I want to do this? But actually, I felt that where I trained gave me a good broad knowledge of everything. So it made sense to look at starting a practice then. So basically, I started to fit around the kids a long time ago now, it feels. But yeah, the kids are now very old teenagers and adults. But at the time, they were, I think my youngest was just about to turn 2 when I started the practice.
Oh, wow. And how did you go about getting your first clients in this new environment? Your husband was from Altrincham, but it was new for you.
It was, yeah. And actually, although he was from Altrincham, he'd spent the last 10 years in London, so he'd sort of lost touch with local people.
Yeah.
I basically sent an email out to all of my friends and colleagues across the whole of the UK to say, right, I'm starting this venture. Anyone got any ideas? Anyone know anything? And one of my friends, her brother, had started a business or was running a business, and she'd been helping him out and decided that she had too much going on. So she directed him to me, and he was my first client. He was a limited company. He's now still a client, 15 years on, but he's changed his vehicle a few times. I think he's gone to sole trader limited, back to sole trader again, but he's still the same client. So yeah, he's our longest client at just over 15 years now.
Wow. Oh, that's lovely. I mean, that sounds really fantastic to keep somebody for such a long time when you first started, because there must have been some real changes over that.
Oh yeah,
totally. Where did the other clients come from?
I did a lot initially of sort of advertising in the church newsletter. Obviously, I had children at preschool, at nursery, and at primary school. So I sort of was talking to the other mums there to find out if anyone knew any businesses. So I was really using and working on the local network that I could sort of touch base with. Obviously, with 3 kids, I was at the school gate about 5 million times a day. So I had a lot of time to talk to other parents. I would say, though, that was very much of a slow burner. I didn't get much from that until maybe 6 to 9 months in. So I'd say the first couple of months were really, really, really slow. But it did give me time to sort of try and get some processes in place, making sure my letter of engagements were fine, updating my own tax knowledge, because obviously I'd been out of the industry for about 4 years at that point.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about where you thought the practice would be, in your mind when you first set up.
Oh, wow.
Where it is now, to where is it different? Is it?
Totally. I think when I first set up, I just thought, I need something to get me away from these kids. I need something to use my own selves again. I mean, literally, when you've got 3 kids under 5 sitting at home with you, and all you're wondering about is which petit flavor they're going to have that day for dessert. I mean, I just needed my own brain cells to start working again properly. So it was partly for selfish reasons I started the business as well. Just, for me, Sid, I'd qualified, I'd worked hard, I had a really good position before I had the kids, and it was finding my own identity again. So yeah, I kind of just thought, just me, we'll see how it gets on. Didn't expect to have any employees or anything like that. And then maybe about 2 years in, I took on my first employee, another part-time mother, and it kind of evolved from there, where every couple of years we kind of went, oh, we're a bit too busy now. Let's look at taking another employee on.
I love it, and I think our listeners will know what you mean when you say a part-time mother. I think you mean a mother who works part-time, not being a mother.
Yes, basically. I think, yeah, I know. Obviously, I've got a lot of peers in the area who are working mothers of different guises, and I think there's always a little bit of guilt if you work full-time. Yeah. Especially where we live here, it's a very family-oriented area. Most people are at the school gates. You have a bit of a guilt if you're not always there, or maybe it's an implied guilt. I'm not sure. So I think being able to offer someone else who was in the same position I was a few years earlier a role was where it all started with my first employee.
Yeah,
So I
sense.
want to know a lot about this, the fact that people work from your house, because that is, I mean, maybe one person sort of sitting next to you in your sort of home office. But I mean, when you're talking about 8 or 9 people, and yes, some of them are virtual as well. Tell us about this. How does it work and why?
Well, it started off because I still had the kids, and even a year in, the youngest one was only at preschool, and so I just worked from the loft. Like the upstairs loft was converted, and that was an office at the time, and it had 2 desks in it. And then it was fine because the person who worked for me was happy to, she had kids at the local school, so it was a really easy place for her to drop off and then come in. And then the next person we took on was an apprentice who was 17, also from a local school. So she was a bit like, oh, I'm quite happy to work in someone else's house. And it kind of just evolved from there, with more and more IKEA desks filling up this loft space, until at one point we had like 4 desks upstairs, all sort of angled under the eaves and in the corner by the lights, and it's all quite funny. But we all were working part-time, none of us were full-time, so it wasn't as if it was feeling really, really busy, because someone might have been working Monday to Thursday and someone was only working a Wednesday, for example. So that's how it started. And then as my kids got older, they all wanted their own bedrooms, so we kind of evicted ourselves from the loft to give it to one of the girls, and we moved downstairs. So if you picture a 1920s semi-detached house, you've got your hallway and you've got your front living room, so it's about a 15-foot square room, and that's our main office now. So we've got 5 desks in there, and we've got another 2 or 3 desks in here. I'm in the garden office today, and it's technically the executive suite, or basically where I go to get away from.
So where do you actually live then? Where does everybody else live? If you've got you've got the lounge covered at the moment, the sitting room.
We've got a massive big kitchen extension dining room space. So that's where we basically spend our time. That's got the corner sofa and the TVs and the piano and all the bits of it. That's like a 25-foot square room. But it's also like where we have client meetings. So previously, when we were in the loft, the front room was like our formal room. We never really used it much, and we'd have client meetings, and it was always nice and tidy. But now clients sit on my sofa in my back room when they come, surrounded by the paraphernalia of my life. But clients come to us not because of the office; they come to us because they like us, if that makes sense. And we're very open on our introductory meetings, and we say, come sit on our sofa and have a casual, friendly chat about what your needs are. So we try and sell on that rather than go, there's my dirty laundry in the corner and you're sitting there not looking at it.
Yeah.
I assume that means that you're very careful as regards who you take on as clients as well.
In terms of the individuals, who they are, or
yes, in terms of avoiding unpleasant or dodgy people, or anyone who might hold a grudge against you, and I know where you live.
Yeah, totally. And I think most accountants would do that anyway, and thankfully the AML process does weed out anyone dodgy.
But you're having to do that. You're having to do that online before they come to your house.
Yes. Yeah, I do a bit of Facebook/Instagram verification of somebody. If they're not referred to us and they're what I call a cold call, I kind of vet them before I let them into my house. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are the upsides and downsides of this arrangement? Because culturally, it feels quite different. And I know that you've been going for 15 years and you had a party and all of that. But how does it work for the team then in this scenario? It sounds lovely.
Well, lovely and also weird, because I think sometimes they're a bit like, okay, this is messier than our own house is. I mean, this is an odd office environment, for example.
That is so honest.
Yeah, I am. You see what you get with me. And I think, obviously, I worked in investment banking, so we're used to all the appraisals and things like that. So we still do a 360-degree appraisal every year for everybody. And the thing that stands out every year is that everyone's happy with the team. They like the environment. It's an odd one, but they all seem to be happy with it because it's not formal. Where, you don't come to work in your bikini today, despite the heat. But we're not formal with a with smart shirts, and it's a relaxed environment. I think people appreciate that. They're not expected to put my laundry out or anything like that. There's nothing silly. We still have that separation between work and sort of a personal life. I think sometimes they'll say, oh, it's a bit odd if they're new, because it's a mental shift if you're used to working in a professional environment. But we like to keep the office as professional as we can, and it's very much for us about the team and making sure the team have flexibility. So we wouldn't be here without our staff, without the team members. So as long as they're happy, I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, and you said that you had a party for the 15-year anniversary, and that a lot of your previous team members came back, which I think is testament, isn't it?
Oh, it was lovely. We had my very first apprentice, Ellen. She came back, and people had heard about her because obviously, they'd heard stories about her, and it was so nice for like our current apprentice to meet our very first apprentice, and it was just such a lovely, lovely journey. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not daily in touch with most of them, but I'm still regularly in touch with my ex number two. We still WhatsApp, and I still meet up quarterly with some of the old team members. And I think because we've treated them as family, they still feel like they are part of the Moore Accountancy family. And in fact, my kids growing up, they think of Ellen as a big sister at the time. I mean, obviously not now; they're in their 20s. But when they were little, they'd be like, "Oh, Ellen's in work today," and they saw her as a big sister because she was maybe 7 years older than the eldest one, which was quite a nice thing. And I think she enjoyed that as well.
I think that is gorgeous. What else would you say you've learned along the journey that's helped get you to where you are now with the size of practice that you have now?
I think we've all made mistakes, as well as positive things. There've been negative things as well. I think training is something that we've tried to work hard on, making a consistent service. Initially, we started as just me, and people were buying into Sid and my values and my knowledge, and trying to get the team to have that same consistency, and obviously they can't be Sid, but to have the same ideas and the same, I guess, vitality maybe, is something we've been working hard to. And it's sometimes been a bit hit and miss. We've not always managed it, but I think that's something that's helped with making sure that the team kind of have the same attitude, the same be friendly but professional, explain things in plain English. And I think those are things that have helped with retaining our client base.
Yeah, that's all crucially important. And how do you keep track of what training the younger or newer members of staff have had and what they need?
From a sort of a technical CPD perspective, that's easy because we're all part of a subscription model where they log their CPD hours. But for the softer skills, it's a bit more difficult. Our team is a really mixed, diverse group. We've got a variety of ethnic minorities. Some of them, everyone obviously can speak English, but it's not necessarily their first language for some of them. Yep. So I think some things are lost in translation occasionally. So we do a lot of softer skill things, like we, a couple of months ago, sat down and did a whole telephone answering role model around the dining table. A bit of a role play going on where I was a nice client, someone else was a bit of a nasty client, etc. Just to see how they reacted. And because when English isn't necessarily your first language, it's sometimes difficult to think on your feet. So those sort of CPD, we're working hard at sort of monitoring. And every year when we have the appraisals, we sort of discuss with the team members whether there's any software or technical or soft skills that they need. And I'd say inevitably it's more the soft skills that we're working hard at training our staff on or with.
That's so wonderful to hear. As I'm sure you know, I've had a big focus on key business skills, which rather than talking, I prefer not referencing them soft skills because that implies they're not as important as hard skills. And
right,
as you've rightly implied, they seriously are, because you can win or lose clients through your communication style and approaches as much as anything else. And you can lose fees by not being able to discuss or recognise when there's an additional billing opportunity or scope creep or whatever. And recognising the need for those that development of everybody over and above the technical side of things is crucial. And I suspect, as you say, it's something that's really contributed to the growth of the practice and the retention of staff and of retention of positive relations with the people that you've left as well.
Yeah,
Not you, people who've left you.
Yeah, who've left us. Yeah, no, I do agree. And I think, there was maybe a time post-COVID where we weren't focusing on it as much. And then with maybe a few staff changes, I think maybe we dropped the ball a little bit, which is why we've now sort of over the last couple of years really focused on it now, because like I said, there had been some issues. So I guess maybe it's we weren't as good on it initially, but over time we've had to improve, and I think it's been a real benefit to the team.
Yes. So what else have you learned then? Because I mean, 15 years is quite a long time, and there's all kinds of things from the setup to kind of what you charge through to how you manage people in your home and all of that, or everything in between. What other things do you think you've sort of learned? I
think the whole pricing thing has always been a bit of an issue for us, and we've learned to develop that over time. We've become a lot more stricter now with scope creep, and also with annual RPI increases in our fees. We were sort of going, we were just about making a profit on that, that's fine. And we kept the same fees for a few years. And then sort of post-COVID, we were like, oh my God, how much furlough work are we doing for free? How much grant application support were we giving all for free? Which was, important for our clients at the time because they didn't have the income necessarily coming in. But that kind of made us realize afterwards that, the turnover was good, the profitability wasn't so good at that point. So since then, around pricing at least, we've implemented annual RPI increases. So it's really clear and transparent. All of our paperwork now talks about that, which at least then means you're increasing by small amounts each year. And also, when a job finishes, if something's been rubbish because the client's bookkeeping's not been very good, we make sure now we have a conversation with the client to improve that or state your fee will be higher than RPI next year because of this. So I think in the early years we kind of just went with the flow, didn't realize how much we weren't doing the pricing well, and then now we're making a concerted effort to improve on that. So that's definitely something that I think we've learnt on and we've developed on. I'm not saying we're necessarily there yet, but I do think we're making big headways towards improving that. But yeah, pricing's definitely been something that's been a learning curve and has helped keep the business going.
And there's some good perspectives in there that other guests haven't shared. Almost everybody says that one of their first mistakes was not pricing properly and potentially still not getting it right. And there's a lot of honesty in the way you talk about it. And as you say, at least you're doing as a minimum RPI increases every year, and clients expect that. And you might be sucking up the extra cost of over servicing clients, but it sounds as if you've got a process to say, well, hang on, we might find ourselves doing that once, but we'll have a conversation to avoid it continuing, which it's not perfect, but it's significantly better than many accountants would be able to say, I can assure you. So well done.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned earlier kind of a mistake. What else? I mean, we make mistakes all the time, don't we? So what are some of the things that have happened to you and the practice that other people can learn from? And I suspect most people are kind of nodding along with you anyway, but what sort of things have happened?
So I'd say it's the communication piece would be the next thing that we've really learned from. I think for a while we were very functional or transactional. You're sort of just doing it, you're keeping your head above water. December, January is really busy, you're delaying your company accounts because you're working on self-assessments. That cycle was flowing. And we thought it was going well, but we weren't realizing that we weren't communicating well enough to our clients. We weren't giving them, full, So a full understanding what the timescales were going to be. If we weren't meeting them, we weren't communicating that. So I think, again, that's somewhere that we had dropped the ball a little bit. And then again, we're working really hard on improving that. We do customer surveys now after every single job. I must admit our response rate isn't necessarily the greatest, but, we either get the clients, it's very polarized, either the ones who go, that was fabulous, carry on with that, or the ones who go, X, Y, Z blah, 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 wasn't happy with this. But at least we're learning from that, and we're able to respond directly to the client and say, well, thanks for letting us know that. We're implementing something to improve that process, for example.
That's great.
Again, thank you for your honesty there. One of the things I've often pointed out to accountants is if you can steel yourself to ask for that feedback, how much better is it to hear that there was a problem that you can fix, rather than to be unaware that there was a problem because the client hasn't said anything. Silence doesn't mean that they're happy. And then they're bad-mouthing you and or potentially looking to move, and you don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think this communication piece, I mean, I'm all about communication and I talk about brand and marketing, but communication it's all about telling people what they're going to get and then delivering that level of communication that you've promised. And I guess what you're saying really is you've gone into the nuts and bolts of it, but you haven't set their expectations. So there weren't expectations set up front in terms of the way we do things around here. And then you get to that point and you've almost thought, well, phew, we've got the client now, so we'll just sort of get on with it. And I still think, I mean, I was looking on LinkedIn earlier and there was still a post there about this, use the same language, transactional versus that more kind of relationship building. And it's amazing how important that relationship bit is. And I was having a chat with a client the other day and, you know, they were saying, oh, well, I do need to do that, but I'll do that at the end of next month. And I was like, no, you really need to do it now. You know, you can't wait. It's not about what suits you. It's about how you kind of bring that kind of element of control and expectation to the forefront so that people, it's almost like you need to be telling them the information before they ask the question, not the other way around. So I
always say to my team, if a client's chased you for information or something, we failed. That shouldn't be, we should be ahead of them thinking about it effectively. And that's what we're working hard. I'd say the last year we're really trying to improve our sort of general communication with clients as well. We do a monthly newsletter, but we're also, for example, you know, when it's their birthday, going, happy birthday, Philippa, hope you have a lovely day, you know, type of thing. So there's the softer things. I know some people would be like, I don't need that from my accountant, but I think other people appreciate that. Actually, we did remember that it was your birthday. So, you know, it's not for everybody, but I'm hoping that it does make our clients feel that they're part of the Moore Accountancy family really as well. So as well as the team being part of the family, our clients should feel like that as well.
I absolutely love it. That's wonderful. So thank you very much for sharing all that. Well, Philippa, having heard all that, before I ask Sid to share her contact details, what would you say makes Moore Accountancy unique and successful from what we've heard?
Well, I'm totally charmed, and I think the word has to be charmed by just the way that the practice works, and you know, this idea of everybody being at home with you. And I mean, I know people work from home, but it just feels slightly different. And I think that means that culturally, there is such a good feel there that, you know, the staff get it. You know, you're there on hand to help them, to, as you said, doing that sort of role play, which is amazing. I mean, one of the things I think, based on what you've said, was a mistake or a challenge, is it's about moving that from internally inside your four walls to ensuring that then seeps out into your client interactions and how you market yourself, and make sure that people know that that's exactly what you do. Because I think it is charming, and I think there are lots of people who would absolutely adore knowing that that's how you work, and, you know, be there sitting on your sort of kitchen table and all of that good stuff. It's lovely. So it's really now about bringing that out and exploding it out so that people know that in your marketing, I would say.
Yeah. No, well done, Sid. And for those listeners who want to find out more about you and your firm, or maybe even apply for the vacancy that's on your website at the moment, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So the website is moreaccountancy.co.uk. So that's probably the main place to go to. But if you're on socials, then on Twitter, it's Sid Moore Mank. And on LinkedIn, it's Sudipta Moore. So feel free to connect on there or send me a direct message if you've got any questions.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And in our extra bonus interview for Patreon subscribers, we'll ask you to talk more about the biggest challenges that you're currently facing, how you're addressing them, and how you're integrating or resisting AI in your practice. But before that, Philippa, how can listeners find out more about you and Insight 101?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, but also you can go to my website, insight101.co.uk. And as I said earlier, I support accountants and bookkeepers to stand out. And that's really about the relationship part, and ensuring that everybody understands what makes you unique as a practice. And we've already talked about Sid and Moore Accountancy and how, there is genuinely that home from home feel. And it's about taking that and turning it into sort of a great website, a great marketing piece, or, fantastic story. So if anybody's interested in learning more about how they can start to build better relationships with their clients, I'm there for them. So anyway, Mark, tell our listeners about how they can find you.
Online everywhere, I'm Bookmark Lee. Even the business card is a bookmark. If you don't have a bookmark from me and you want one, just send me a DM and your address. I'll pop one in the post. One thing I've learned after years of working with accountants is that running your own practice can feel lonely, even when things look fine on the surface. And if you'd like things to feel clearer, smoother, or more rewarding, that's where I come in. Whether you're after better clients, fewer frustrations, or more profit on your terms, I'm always happy to have a chat with an accountant. No pressure, no pitch. And sometimes one good conversation is all it takes. Other times it can lead to working together more regularly or joining my sole practice club. Either way, the first step's easy. Just reach out. So do that on LinkedIn or by email, mark@bookmarklee.co.uk. And do please follow the podcast pages on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Patreon.
Indeed. Sadly, that's all we have time for today on the main podcast. Thanks very much, Sid, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. Our thanks go again to the sponsors of the podcast, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. Do check out their website and let their CEO, Mayank, know you heard about Pinnacle Global on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast.
And go and see them at Accountex North if you're going to be there.
Indeed.
Yep. Thanks to the Tax Advice Network, the easiest way for accountants to reach specialist tax advisors. Remember, there's no charge for using the website, findataxadvisor.online. We can also access their weekly tax tips, written especially for general practitioner accountants.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the love online, subscribe, leave a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and also get in touch and find out about Patreon. We'd love to have you on board. Anyway, either way, it helps to broaden the reach of the podcast if you do subscribe. Do please contact either myself or Mark if you'd like to be interviewed as well in the future.
Thanks ever so much, Philippa. Thanks again to Sid. You've been a wonderful guest here. Next week will be another of Philippa and my Reflections episodes, which is where we talk in more detail about ideas and initiatives mentioned by our most recent guests. And so we're able to provide further valuable insights for you, our loyal listeners. Before then, we're going to get some further insights from Sid for our Patreon subscribers only. So please head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Accountants Success Secret. It's singular there, don't ask. That's where you'll hear about the biggest challenges that Sid's currently facing and her approach to them. And that often involves our guests talking about how they're integrating or resisting the integration of AI into their practices too. So that should be very useful. Otherwise, until next week or anywhere else we might meet online or in real life, bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.